Well, hello everybody.
Well, hello.
My name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Comrade, a couple that loves to play board games.
And loves to talk about them and inspire the world to play games.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Well, last week we talked about our top 10 2022 games.
We did.
But what about the love for some of the older games out there?
We did play games that weren't just released in 2022.
We did?
Yeah, so we decided to take some time to make a separate list to talk about our top 10 new to us games that we played in 2022 that weren't released in 2022.
Exactly that. And you know what?
Insert long title here.
There's over 100 that we played that fell into this category. So, or I'll put a specific number right here because some of the games we played a total of 324 games.
24 games. Yeah, different games.
And I think about 80 or 90 of those were 2022. And then about 100 of those were that we played before 2022.
Yeah.
So, some maths.
We played a lot of games in 2022. That is the main thing that you need to know. Is we played a lot of games.
Exactly.
Because we love them.
Without further ado, I did have honorable mentions, but should I say them?
Let's do your honorable mentions at number 2. We'll do it the way that we did one.
Number 10.
Number 10
is Circadian's First Light, which was originally released in 2019.
We don't know each other's lists.
We don't.
So,
is it your number 10 as well?
No.
Okay.
So, it may be on my list though.
So I think this game is brilliant. It's a dice manipulation game in which you're trying to join a new society that you've traveled on.
With hidden agendas, like hidden dice choosing. It's super cool. Yeah.
There's a lot in this game to love, but what the really cool aspect of it is there's actually a Kickstarter that came out yesterday for the expansion for this game. So you can learn more about that, but in general, it's such a fun game to play, and there's so much variety of gameplay that goes into it. I wish this game got spoken more about, because I haven't heard too much about it until we played it, and I absolutely adore it, and I want to play it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So that's why it's on my top 10.
Yes, because the reason that we ended up getting this game is because we had backed
Chaos
Order,
yeah.
And you could get them together, so I was like, sure, why not? Let's get this one, because I love Garfield games. And this one also really surprised me. It's on my list, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Okay, my number 10
is...
or do you want to do 2? Do you want to... No.
No,
I'll do 2.
You have to
I'll
do
do
2.
2. Yeah. So my number 10... let me just say this, because I think it's important for us to say, is we had a 2-player only month where we played a lot
over
of
50
2-player games.
2-player only games.
A lot of 2-player games.
Yep.
Some of them being new to us. So, my first one is a 2-player only game called Nanga Parbat.
Oh, that's a really good one.
This one was released in 2021, and it's essentially just a set collection of different animals, or of the same, but you've got to like go around and climb this mountain and go on different areas of the map to be able to bring this species to your board. And when you do that, each of the species give you, well, not each of the species, but each of the species gives you a special action that you can do, which is very cool. But you also need to be able to be wary of the ones that you're collecting by setting up tents and setting up different animals. You're able to score points. And you want to do that strategically and quickly, or you'll get outpointed by your opponent.
Hate being outpointed.
I hate outpointing someone.
There's cute animal meeples.
Outpointing.
This summer we were playing beach volleyball and someone said, "Ilya, point us." And I went like this because I didn't get what they meant.
We needed a point.
I was supposed to score a point. I didn't do it.
He was standing the closest to the scoreboard. Okay, that's my number 10. My number 9 is from 2012, and it's called Ginkopolis. This game is a city builder where you're basically trying to have area majority of specific things, or like of tiles. And the cool thing is like you'll be like taking these tiles and then putting them onto places, and the areas will grow higher and higher, and you'll score points based on your control and the area of the color that you have. Now, it's very it runs very smoothly in my opinion, and I just like had a really, really good time playing this at Dice Tower West. We learnt it there with Jeff and Jamie, Foster the Meeple, and overall it was a great experience. So I've decided to put this on my list because as soon as we got back, we went and bought it.
We did. I also really like this game. It's joy. And the tiles are different as well. Like some of the tiles are victory point tiles, some of them are resources, some of them give you more tiles. So there's like a level of complexity within that that's really fun and streamlined in a good way.
Yeah.
My number
9
is Iki.
Iki.
So this one I believe got a reprint or like a facelift. Because it's originally from 2015,
right?
But there's a new version that's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and stunning. And it's generally this worker movement game. You're moving around this rondel of buildings where you activate different actions and try to score the most points. But there's going to be fires that come and rain down on some of the buildings, which isn't good. That's bad. But it's such... Every time... We played this game a couple of times, and it's... Every time it just left such a really good impression on me that I want to... Actually, I want to play right now.
Yeah.
Let's bring out Iki.
Yeah, it's like a market game where you're just like collecting as much as you can and building certain spaces up on your board. I think it's a very clever way to play the game. I like the fire that comes through. It adds a little bit of intensity to the game, and then the varying characters and like I want to call them crew, but they're not crew. But like the people that end up coming into the game are very, very interesting.
Well, and your player boards are really helpful as well because it basically tells you like all the way you can score points, all the things that you can do, and I love when player boards do that because it's really easy ways for players to approach the game rather than, well, what is everything I can do? Well, it's all in front of you. You can just do all these things, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, my number 8 is Tzolk'in.
Oh, yeah.
So this is another rondel game
gears, right?
Where you place workers and you take workers off, and where you take them off, you get certain elements. But it's a resource management game, and it's just very clever. I love the way that the gear system moves everything else that works around it. It's a game from 2012. And it's been on my wish list for quite a long time. My to wish list. For quite a long time, and I'm really happy we finally got the chance to play it this year because it does really hold up all the hype that everyone's built up around it. I think there's not a lot of games like it, and I would think that after it's done what it has done, there'd be more kind of rondel executing games that do what it does in a different way.
It's a timing thing, because that's really what it is. Yeah. Like now that you say it, it's actually really interesting to think about because I think more games should have that. And it's not that they don't. Like, timing is an important thing in games, but this is a forced time thing.
It is.
Where you can really, really...
If you miss the opportunity,
to do a really good action.
And don't get me wrong, there's a few rondel games out there that are brilliant and have really leveled up the mechanic and made it really their own. But when you think of other mechanics, I feel like this one is not as prominent in games. I feel like it could be, but maybe it's just tougher to design. I don't know.
Who knows? Good choice, though.
That is my number 8.
Number 8. All right. My number 8 is your number 10. Which was Circadian's First Light.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I think we said a lot about this game. It's just slightly above what Ilya put it on, but it's very interesting with the hidden dice placement. So essentially what you're doing is you have your own player board and you get to decide how to use your dice. But not only are they limited by the pips that are face up, they're limited by the turn order. So your spaces can be taken up by another player because that's how they'd also decided to place their workers and dice. So it's really interesting to have that moment of like thinking about how you want to place your dice, making sure that you can actually use all of the dice that you have, because there are ways to gain more dice, but there's also ways to lose dice. And using those dice is very important, especially being able to have to adapt to what might be coming your way based on what other people actually ending up showing that they're doing. Yeah. Yep. So that would be my number 8. I don't think I have much else to say about it though.
It's a really good game.
Yeah, it
Very
runs
good
smooth.
game.
Yep. Yep. All right, number 7 for me was released in 2020 and it's called Bonfire. So Bonfire is just like, it's like a civilization discovery game almost, where you're going around these islands, collecting these deities, collecting these goals, and then bringing them back to your own player board to allow yourself to create a bunch of different combos and collect resources, place them properly. But what's really interesting about this game is the action tokens that you end up using. You have a variety, I can't remember how many exactly there are, but there's a variety of different action tokens that you have to spend to do particular actions. And the only way to get those is through different things on your board or by placing specific tiles a certain way and lining them up with the board that already is existing. So I think it's really interesting when you have those like almost Tetris type decisions that you have to make.
It's like a cool take on tile placement, because how you place your tiles is basically how many actions you will have.
Yeah, exactly. And then those actions in turn turn into resources and so on and so forth. And it runs very, very smoothly given how many things that you end up having to do. And yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised I hadn't heard more about this game before we had actually got it.
Yeah, Stefan Feld has really good games. And this one might be on my list, so I'll chime in a little bit later.
Oh yeah, it's got I mean, like any, I think it's Stefan Feld, there's a lot of games that it just has a lot of iconography. So that's the one barrier.
The spookiness maybe behind it. Okay.
All right, that's my 7.
So my number 7 is also a repeat, and it's Ginkgopolis.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so building cities. I really liked it. I think there's just it's a very friendly city building type of game, but it's also really cool because there's all these letters around the game, so you can expand the city any way that you really want to. And it has like elements of area control, and there's areas of competition, but it's a very interactive game, which leaves me coming back to it again and again. Yeah,
well, and the way you play cards and pass cards too, like I think that's really interesting. It's
very clever.
And it's like a draft style-esque game. Yeah.
Very fun design.
Very, very cool.
Now my number 5.
Number
5.
Wait,
6.
did you just do 7?
No, this is my 6.
Okay. Yeah.
So my number 6 is Barren Park.
Nice.
So this one's from 2017. It is a tile placement game. And its simplicity in all its glory, and I feel like this one's been really high on a lot of people's lists and has been recommended to us again and again, and I'm so happy we finally got to play because I love it. All of it is really, you're building a bear park, and you're placing tiles, and based on where you place tiles, you get there's iconography for other things that you get to do. So that sheer simplicity and that mechanic of playing tiles to cover something to get to do more is just so satisfying, and it's a really clever game. Because as you fill things in, you get to place bear statues, as you get to do more. The points in it are really clever as well, because you're racing to complete certain areas before, or grab certain areas before your opponent does to get more points. But overall, it's a game that is really easy to pull out and introduce to anybody, and it's a game that I would love to play again and again.
Yep.
And that is my number 6.
Fantastic game. I will say that it was on my honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
Yeah. Okay. My number 6 is also a repeat, which seems to be a trend here.
Which is interesting, because we had, I feel like, less repeats in our top 10 2022 games, but I feel like we played more of these games than our 2022 games.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting to see so many repeats.
I didn't think that there would be as many repeats so far, at least.
Yeah.
But that's okay. My 6th is Iki. I think we kind of touched the bases on this one. I will say that because it had the facelift, that it is really beautiful. So that adds to the drive to want to play that game more, I think. It has some interesting strategy decisions that I think are really cool, because your ability to move depends on where you end up placing your workers, and turn order is based on, again, where you end up placing one of your workers. You can like choose to have priority or not, which I think is really neat. That would be Iki for me, and Ilya's just writing notes. So that's me now still, right? I guess I go to 5?
Yeah.
A 5. All right, so here's where some of the influence continues to shine for the 2-player month. My number 5 was released in 2005, conveniently.
Ooh, why is it convenient?
Because 5 and 5.
Oh.
And it's called Twilight Struggle. Now, this 2-player game is a heavy, like, I want to say war game, but it's more of like a... it's like political area control.
It's a
type.
Cold War.
Yeah. So you're essentially playing cards from your hand in different eras and different rounds as either the USSR or the USA. And your job is to outmaneuver the other person. It's a strictly 2-player game where you're going to make a lot of these cool decisions based on the cards that you have in your hand, because you'll get action points, or you can use the cards as an event. But the tricky thing is that some of these events trigger the other players. So if you use it as an action points, then the other player gets to trigger the event. And
they're all historical.
Yeah, and they're all very, very learnable historical events that kind of provide this education piece, which adds to the reason why this game is so high for me. But it is hard to play. It's really tight because you're basically battling for points. When I score, Ilya's score goes down, and we're trying to make sure that the scoreboard is positive in our zone rather than in my zone rather than in Ilya's zone, for example. And I think that's really interesting. The tight decisions with your hand, because you're going to end up playing essentially all but one, sometimes all of your cards. There's like this give and take and pull and what you have to sacrifice, and then deciding the influence on the world map is very, very interesting in terms of scoring. So yeah, I have had a lot of fun playing that game, and yeah.
It's incredibly well done, and it's definitely withstood the test of time because it is a very highly acclaimed game as well. This is a good disclaimer for me, is that I did not consider the 2-player only games for my list. Because then it would have made it way too hard to do things with.
But there wasn't that many 2-player games that we had played that were new to us.
That's true. There wasn't that many, but there's a few that I think we made.
And I can tell you now that less than half of my games are 2-player games.
Okay, that's fair. But that one would have definitely made my list if I did. Okay. So it was a really good game.
Fair enough.
Is it my turn or your turn?
Your turn.
Okay, so my number 5 is Night of the Ninja from Brotherwise Games.
Yeah, fun game.
So I feel this game got released in 2020.
Right before the pandemic.
It was like right at the pandemic, basically.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be a high player party-esque type of deduction game where it's just, I feel like unfortunate time. But we finally got to play it this year, and I love this game.
It was pretty great.
And you'll know this about me from the last few videos we did this year, is I'm not the biggest on social deduction or deduction in a nutshell. I love deduction.
Social deduction. You like deduction.
I really like deduction. I don't love social deduction.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit apprehensive about this game because I've played hundreds, if not thousands, of games of like Coup, Avalon, Resistance, Werewolf, those types of games. So I was a little bit worried about this one. But it came out to be brilliant. You're basically on 2 different teams, but you don't know whose team you're on. And you're playing cards, and there's a sequence of actions. You're drafting cards, and then you're playing those cards based on a sequence of actions and trying to eliminate, look, and try to make sure that your team wins. And on your team, they're in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4 basically. And the higher number is more a valuable member of that team. And if they survive, but the equivalent of the other team doesn't, then your team wins. So it's trying to deduce of like where everyone is sitting at, which faction everyone's part of. But it's just extremely well done. It's so much fun. And what I like about it too is the pace of it is really quick.
Yep. Yeah, you can play multiple rounds and it'll be just as fun.
And there's good comebacks because your points are unknown essentially, but the first to reach 10 basically wins. But it was just like, I had so much fun playing this game and I can't wait to play more. And it really shines at that like 7 to 10, like higher player count.
Yeah, and playing with the right people is so important in a game
fun.
like that. Yeah.
So that's my number 5.
Cool.
My number 4
4
is Brass Lancashire.
Oh.
So this was our first year where we finally played a brass game, and this one is from 2007. And I didn't realize there was such a difference in
when
years
you told me
between
the two,
Lancashire and Birmingham.
we haven't played Birmingham
yet.
To be fair,
So Lancashire was brilliant. It was so much fun. You're essentially building in 2 different stages of connections and trying to get a resource. Maybe coal. The theme is not, like, it's definitely a mechanics type of game, not a theme type of game, to me at least. Because usually I remember theme in this one. I remember...
You're trying to make routes to bring your resources to specific areas so that you can build other things.
Thank you.
You really just want... It's like wood and coal. Wood and coal.
Sorry.
Like...
Well, but generally, like, I think the pacing of this game is what makes it brilliant, because in the first stage you can't build in some of the areas, but then you can in the second stage, and it's really fun. It's really crunchy, makes you think really hard, which I really like. But it's a game I can't wait to play Birmingham, because if it's anything like Lancashire, I know I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Red Cathedral.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the first time Ilya played this was at Dice Tower, and I was playing Furnace, which is also a great game. Yeah. But I learned that last year.
That was last year.
Yeah. No. So the Red Cathedral, Ilya played it, said that we needed to get it. We got it, and then he played it, or he taught me, and we played it, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
And we got the expansion.
Yeah, we played the expansion. Yeah. And the expansion was really great, but the base game alone was also fantastic. I think the crunch of deciding which cathedral or which tower, I guess, you want to go into is really, really neat. The dice movement around the board and strategically moving so you can get yourself additional bonuses, I think, is super clever. A lot of it I just think is really well done. And yeah, I think I'm now becoming more of I really like worker placements, but I'm becoming more of a sucker for like dice worker placements.
Is Garfield Games influencing you?
Of course they are. Yeah. So that is my number 4.
Okay,
it was released in 2020.
Before you move into your number 3, that is my number 3. So the only thing I'll add is like I think like Devere Games has just been on fire the last little bit, years, and I guess the last 2 years, because that's when Red Cathedral came out. But everything in this game just flows so smoothly and so cleverly that, and the aesthetic in this game and the table presences bring is brilliant, and the expansion is stellar.
Yeah.
It adds the contractors, it adds an additional board that you can go visit different spaces. Like usually, I was scared because the expansion has as much content in it as the base game. Basically, it's a hefty expansion. And I was scared it was going to be overwhelming, but it's not at all, and it's fantastic.
It fits into the game nicely.
Very nicely. Yeah. So, yeah, that's my number 3. Yeah. But you can
cool. Okay, my number 3 now is another influence of 2-player month. Okay. Released in 2020 from Devere.
Devere!
And it's called Polis.
Polis.
So this is another like war area controlled game.
Athens and Sparta.
Yeah, and you are either playing Athens or Sparta. And you're basically trying to get control of all of these areas, close the routes for other people to be able to trade things, and build up your resources so that you can do better than your opponent. It's a very intimidating game because they literally give you this giant piece of paper that is your guide to how you should play the game. It is fantastically resourceful, but as a player aid, it's huge and intimidating.
It is a very complex game, though.
And there are like 8 different actions you can do on your turn, but you can only do 2. Yeah. I think 2.
Sounds right.
Yeah, you have a lot of actions to choose from, but a limited number of actions you can do on your turn. And then this back and forth creates this real high tension moments where you don't know whether or not you're going to be able to trade your resources because Ilya's over here trying to blockade you and take over your countries. So it's a really tight game. I found it very interesting to play. I love that it is just a 2-player game. It felt super, super natural to get into.
I think it'd be too long if it was...
yeah, it would be way too... It would not... I would not enjoy it if it was anything but.
It's a really good 2-player game.
So, if you're looking for a good 2-player game that's grindy and crunchy, Polis and even Twilight Struggle are worth checking out.
Yes.
And yeah, just like... Again, this is another... I think this is the last 2-player... Maybe... No, this is the... maybe the last 2-player game on my list. Okay. We'll see. There's only 2 more.
My number 2 is Orleans. So this is from 2014. It's been on our wish list for such a long time because it is one of the original bag builders. There's others out there, but this is the one that really put
when people tell you about
bag building on the map. Yeah. And it's a brilliant game. There's so much to love about it. We played it at first at Dice Tower West with Phil and Reina, and thank you for teaching us. We really appreciated that. And we got the game, and we love it. You're essentially bag building
different types of workers, and then you'll put them onto your board, and those are the workers that you're allowed to use for the turn. So it's really crunchy.
It is very crunchy.
You end up like having to place your workers into certain areas to be able to use them in combination, to be able to like take spaces on the board and just do more and more with them. And yeah, it's like a fantastic game.
Yeah, and the more I feel like every decision you make in this game is so impactful to your strategy, and the more workers that you get that go into your bag, like it just flows so well, and it has everything that I love in bag builders. So if you're looking for a Euro-y beige type of game that has bag building, this is it. This is the one. And there's many expansions in this game.
Let's also glide in the fact that they are releasing a roll and write for this game. A roll and
write. Joan of Arc. We
already know that we love roll and writes.
And apparently it's a really good introduction into this bigger game, because it is a heavier game as well.
Yeah, great game. Alrighty, my number 2, I fibbed a little and said Polis was the last 2-player game on the list. This is also another 2-player game, also from 2020, but it's from Capstone Games, I believe, called Curious Cargo.
This your number 1?
No, my number 2.
Oh!
Curious Cargo is my number 2, and essentially, again, it is a 2-player game, strictly 2-player game, where you are basically building a pipeline for your warehouse, but sending off your trucks, receiving your opponent's trucks, and trying to balance that like engagement of your resources, being able to flow out and in to your warehouse. And I think like the decisions that you have to make are extremely tight. The tiles that you end up having to place, it took me a long time to like get through. And you can play on the easy mode, which is 2 resources, or you can play on the difficult mode, which is 3 resources. And that's where I think it gets more and more intense. But the cool thing about this game is the more that you go through your warehouse and successfully transfer different goods, you're actually going to unlock the point boundaries. And the more you unlock, the more you're able to place, the higher you'll be able to score. And then it kind of just like snowballs from there.
Yeah, it really escalates as you play this game. I love the sheer I feel like this is like the game that the complexity is just perfect for what it is.
It's hard though.
Because it looks very approachable. It looks really friendly. You have a couple of trucks, couple of pipes. When you get into it, it's like if the truck doesn't land in exactly at the space where the pipe is to receive that color, then everything is ruined.
These pipes are color specific too. Like they're not just like, oh, I can put any pipe here.
Well, yeah, you can't have like a pipe that takes in milk and give it some cheese instead.
Ew. Yeah, that's true.
Milk pipe.
Anyways, my number 2 is Curious Cargo. You already said your number 2.
I did.
So I guess
do you want to do your number 1 first?
My number 1 because it's already been mentioned. So why not?
Okay.
My number 1 is Brass Lancashire. From 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, this game is absolutely amazing. It fits, like, if you've been listening to anything I say about any kind of board games, this game fits perfectly into what I enjoy. I have had so many people recommend this game to me. It's actually, well, to us, it's actually, like, surprising that it took us this long to play it. And the fact that we haven't played Birmingham is even more wild.
Set it up. Play it.
So we will be playing it this year, for sure.
For sure.
Lancashire makes my top because it's exactly that. Like, it's crunchy, it's grindy, the mechanics are there, the resource management is tight, the decisions in the round 1 versus the round 2 are really vibrant. There's a lot of different strategies that you can kind of try and manipulate yourself around, and I think it's very interesting to see which way everybody takes, and see those battles that you know are happening, but it's just like 1 resource off or 1 turn off before you're able to do something that your opponent could do. The other thing that I find very interesting about this game is using other people's resources. Because the way the board is set up, there are resources on the board that you could be like, oh yeah, conveniently you've got this ore over here that I'm just going to use because I can.
Because he can, and he does.
And it is very, very cool. It can like create some tense moments in the game. And yeah, I'm very excited to play more of this.
Yeah, but it's been a while since we played it too, so I'm excited to get it back to the table because I remember really loving it, and hence it being on my list as well.
I took the port from you. I remember that.
Yeah, you ruined me. Maybe that's why it's not as high on my list. Well, my number 1 game is Bonfire.
Ah, such a good game. Oh, you're all a repeat. Okay.
Yeah, that was also another repeat. I think the sheer element of how you do your actions is based on how you place your tile. And if it creates a joint group and all of a sudden you have more of one symbol, it's just such a clever way to utilize the actions you can take in the game. But then there's so much like layers in it of goals you can take, races that you are going for, the recruiting. Yeah. There's so many different things you can do. Even the way that you travel with your boat, like how you position yourself is so clever. And it's a game that I'm really surprised that it's not a bigger game. Because I really
do think it's the entry thing.
It is, yeah, there's a lot of iconography. It's a lot to take in initially. But once you play it and once you understand what's happening, it's a game you'll simply want to get back to the table. And I think one of my goals this year is to play the expansion because there's an expansion.
Do we have?
We don't have the expansion.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll get the expansion and play it because it's a wonderful game. Absolutely love Bonfire.
Yeah.
And that is our
top 10 new to us games of 2022.
That we have not played in. No, that we played in 2022.
Yeah, top 10 new to us games played in 2022.
Yeah, that works.
But not from 2022.
Not from 2022.
But
if you're curious about our 2022, you can check out the week before where we did our top 10 of 2022 releases. And this Monday we did anticipated games. So we're covering all the years.
Yeah, January is a fun month for us.
The present and the future. What's in the future? We don't know, but we'll find out. What game, for a question of the day, is what game are you itching to get to the table? What is the one that if you had to choose right now...
Time out.
What?
Time out. I want to ask a different question because it's more related to this.
Okay.
I want to know, what is your go-to recommendation for a quote-unquote classic game
that's a better question.
That you would always like recommend to somebody? I want to know the games. Is it on our list? What games do we need to get to the table that are not necessarily new or hot? Maybe they are hot. They're just older.
Hot.
Tell us about them. Maybe we've played them. Maybe we haven't. We've got an ongoing list, and we're always looking for more games to play. Yeah, let us know.
That's a great question. And if you want to hang out more with us, feel free to check out our Discord, our Patreon, and all the other social medias that we are on so you can learn a little bit more about us. And if you like this video,
give us that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for your support. We really, really, really do appreciate it. And yeah, come hang out with us. We will see you in the next one, though. Bye.